Welcome to my kitchen. Hi everybody. This is our first recipe in our new meal prep week of healthy and hearty staples. It's the white turkey chili. If you like chili or any kind of stew really, then this recipe is right up your alley. It's nice and thick, full of all those chili flavors, with a little special twist that adds a little different dimension in flavors, an unexpected spice. It adds a warmth without adding heat. This spice has become my new go-to spice when I cooked ground turkey. This recipe is great for a party. It's not overly spicy, but still has that nice complex flavor. The nutritional rundown is, it's 361 calories for a cup, has 30 grams of protein, and 13 grams of fat. I find a cup and a half is a perfect amount for a meal, especially if you're eating it by itself. If you have a side salad, then a cup is plenty. There's nothing especially complicated with this recipe. Lots of chopping because we have a nice variety of veggies that can be swapped out for anything different if you'd like. By all means, you do your own veggie combination. I don't like green peppers, so I chose red and orange. And the carrots add a nice little bit of sweetness. But this recipe really doesn't take long to come together. Along with the surprise spice and a cool little trick to make it thick, the chili is simple in process, but complex in flavor. Once we get the onions peeled and chopped, we can move on and chop the celery. I'm going to try to keep everything the same size as the beans. I can't change the size of the beans, so we're going to use that as our base size. When you want a certain texture to a dish, the trick is to keep everything the same size. So when you're eating it, you get an even amount of everything in every bite. I also chose these veggies because they're not super expensive. I was able to get the peppers on sale, and thankfully the onions and the carrots are usually cheaper anyway. By using lots of veggies, it's also a way to keep the calorie count down and a great way to get more veggies in our diets. That's another thing I like about this recipe. It's a great way to eat healthier, but not sacrifice. Look, good food is good food. Why not have it be healthier too? With just a few things swapped out for healthier versions, all those good flavors are in there. Those things that make chili are all in here. On to the peppers. I chose 2 different colored peppers just for the look of it, no other reason. If you want to stick to one color and that's what you have, that's fine. The regular green peppers don't agree with me, so I did switch out for the colored peppers. If green peppers don't bother you, you can absolutely use those too. They do seem to be on sale more often. We want the peppers just like all the other veggies. We want them to be the same size as the beans. I'm using about a half a pepper of each. Cut them into strips and then cut them into pieces. Peppers are another one of those good for you veggies. Lots of vitamins and minerals that help us have a healthier diet. They say getting more colorful fruits and vegetables is the best way to ensure that you have a wider range of the good for you vitamins and minerals. Also, before cutting up any of our produce, remember to give everything a good rinse, especially if we're not going to be peeling any of the outside layers off. And double check for those labels. I often miss those. While we're finishing up the peppers, I just want to mention some substitute vegetables that you could use. The onions could be omitted if onions bother you. You could add some more celery. And instead of bell peppers, you could also use the poblano peppers. Or you could even use green beans instead of peppers. And instead of carrots, you could use Yukon Gold potatoes. I don't think the combination makes that much difference. You want to stick to milder vegetables, so nothing is overpowering in flavor. As for the carrots, I do like to peel my carrots, but that's up to you. If you don't want to do that step, that's fine. Just make sure that they are nice and clean if you're not going to peel them. Once again, we want everything the same size as the beans. I know I keep saying it, but it really does make a big difference in the texture of your dish. When things are a little bit smaller or a little bit larger, if they're too big, they get overpowering. If they're too small, they get lost. So if everything is the same size, nothing stands out, and you get a nice combination of flavors. As we're working on the carrots, I want to talk a little bit about the order in which we're doing things. With this recipe, it's easier to have everything all chopped up and ready to go before you start cooking. I feel to get the most flavor out of everything, it needs time to cook separately and develop its own flavors. We'll use the same pot, but things will cook in different stages. This will also help develop the flavors and give us a well-rounded dish. You're really able to taste everything, and it's not bland or just one note of flavor. We'll cook our meats first, and then we'll remove them, and then we'll cook the veggies, all in the same pot. This is the way we get to develop the layers of flavors. Seasonings get added a little bit of time in each section, and it gives everything a chance to get flavored. Once the carrots are done, we can start on the smoked turkey sausage. Now, the pieces are just a little bit bigger because when it cooks, it will shrink a bit. By using the smoked turkey sausage instead of beef sausage, we're reducing the calories and the fat by a tremendous amount. 1 pound of smoked turkey sausage has 700 calories and 42 grams of fat. Smoked beef sausage has 1,020 calories per pound and 84 grams of fat. It's definitely a big difference. And truthfully, the flavor difference is not that drastic. I'll take less calories any day. I really like using the smoked sausage because it adds a nice smoky flavor to everything and works so well with the other spices. The sausage also adds another dimension to the texture of the chili. Also, by adding the ground turkey instead of ground beef, we're reducing the calories by a tremendous amount also. 1 pound of ground turkey has 668 calories, 35 grams of fat. 1 pound of ground beef, 1,506 calories, with 136 grams of fat. It's amazing the difference. So the healthy benefits really do add up. Turkey is also lighter on your digestive system. Okay, now for our first trick. This is going to make our chili just a little bit thicker. We're going to take a can of the northern white beans and process them until they're super smooth. I did rinse the beans first, and I used about a half a cup of chicken broth in the processor to make them really smooth. I love this trick because it adds thickness to the sauce that might be missing because we're not using tomatoes in this chili. The beans help the rest of the chicken broth thicken without using any kind of flour or other thickener. The beans also help add protein to the chili. After completing this step, we can move on and get the rest of our beans ready. You want to empty the cans into a strainer and run them under cold water until they stop bubbling. I did the same step before I processed the other can of beans. Once they're rinsed, you can just set them aside and let them drain. I like to have all the ingredients ready to go before we start cooking stages of this recipe. It just makes things easier to keep track of. And where your focus is going to be on the cooking. We have lots of beautiful ingredients to put together, and we don't want to miss any steps in the process. This is where our flavor is going to start to layer in, and we add the spices and build this amazing chili. This chili is so good. I'm excited to smell all those flavors start cooking and mixing together, and even more excited to eat an amazing bowl of chili. Okay, let's get our pot out on the stove to heat up with some oil. A half a tablespoon of oil is fine. We're just going to put a thin coat on the bottom of the pan. The heat can be set at a medium to medium-high heat. The smoked sausage is the first thing in the pot. That's going to help us get that nice smoky flavor into everything else. You want to cook it to where it starts to get brown a little bit. Give it a stir. Get it all into one layer so everything cooks evenly. While our sausage is cooking, we can go ahead and start getting our spices on top of our ground turkey. Salt and black pepper first, about half of the amount that's listed. And next is our secret spice. This is definitely out of the ordinary. It's cinnamon. It really adds a dimension to the turkey. It adds a warmth to the dish without adding heat. And you're not going to use a whole lot, so you really won't taste the cinnamon. You'll just taste that warmth. A good friend of mine found this by complete accident, and she shared it with me. And now I use cinnamon whenever I cook ground turkey. It's called a happy accident. I love those. After our cinnamon, we go ahead and get the rest of our spices. Now you want to add about half of the amount of the spices that are listed. The other half will go on the veggies when they're cooking. I like adding the spices directly onto the turkey because I think it helps absorb the flavor a little bit. And while it's sitting there, it has a little bit of time to almost marinate. Also, don't forget to give the sausage a little stir once in a while so you can check and see how evenly it's cooking. Once the sausage is done, which should only take about 3 to 5 minutes, we're going to push it to the sides of the pot and make a little space in the center to add our ground turkey. Add the turkey and start to break it up into pieces. Let it cook for just a little bit and then you can break it up a little bit more. Try to get the chunks the same size as the sausage. You want it to cook until all the pink is gone and it's no longer mushy or soft. Now, after that's done, you want to remove the meat from the pot and set it aside. Make sure you save all those juices that's in the bottom of the pot. This is our first layer of flavoring, and we don't want to lose any of that. Do not wash your pot out. We're going to keep building flavors on this. Add the remaining oil to the bottom of the pot and let it heat up a little bit. Spread it around, and then we can add the veggies. Give them a good stir and let them get coated in the oil. Once they've started to cook a bit, you can go ahead and add your remaining spices. Give it another good stir to work in all those spices. You want the veggies to cook long enough to start to soften, about 5 minutes. You want to make sure you turn your burner down to a medium heat. They're going to continue to cook once all the ingredients are together, so you don't want them to get too soft at this point. Next, after the veggies have started to soften, everything else can go back in the pot. We'd start and add our meat back in the pot, then add the beans and our bean puree. Then we're going to add our remaining chicken broth. Add it slowly, not all of it at once. You don't want it to have too much. You don't want it to be real soupy. Give it a good stir and see where you are. And then if you need to add a little bit more, you can. It's going to simmer for about 15 minutes, so you don't want it to dry out. But while it's cooking, if you look at it and it looks too dry, you can always add a little bit more. When it's all done and cooled off a little bit, I like to store my food in glass containers. This recipe made so many perfect meals all week, and I enjoyed it so much. It was so delicious, and I even forgot that I was eating healthier. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this recipe, and I hope you give it a try. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. For a copy of the complete recipe and a full meal prep menu, go check out my Patreon page.